Human battleship enters the war, and fear spreads across the stars. Part 1. The silence before the storm. The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. Hundreds of alien beings from different worlds sat in tall chairs, talking about trade deals and space routes. The massive building on Nexus Prime had seen many meetings like this over the past 300 years. Peace had made everyone comfortable, maybe too comfortable. Ambassador Reed from the Vorthan Empire fixed his purple robes and looked around the room. His people were known for being smart traders, and today they were discussing mining rights. In the outer systems, the war happening far away between the Malaxi attackers and the peaceful Tyrillians was just background noise to most people here. It was a small fight, they thought, something that would end by itself, but everything changed. When Captain Davis from the Human Defense Force walked into the room, most of the aliens had heard stories about humans. They were new to space travel, barely 50 years since they first left their home planet Earth. The older species looked at them like children playing with toys. Davis wore a simple gray uniform that looked plain next to the fancy clothes of the other species. Davis walked to the center of the room where speakers usually stood. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The talking in the room got quieter as aliens noticed the human. "Honored members," Davis said in a clear voice, "the Tyrillian people have asked for our help. The Malaxi have killed 3 billion. Innocent people in just 6 months. We cannot watch while families die." Ambassador Reed made a sound like laughing. "Human, your people have been in space for less than 50 years. What can you do against the Malaxi war machine? They have ships that can heal themselves and weapons that change to beat any defense." Davis smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We can send one battleship." The room filled with laughter. Everyone knew the Malaxi had hundreds of ships. Their bioships were grown like plants but were as big as cities and could fix any damage done to them. One human ship seemed like a joke. "Thank you for wanting to help," Reed continued, trying to sound kind, "but maybe humans should learn about trading first before they try to fight wars." "The UCS Defiance is already moving toward the battle zone," Davis said, cutting him off. "It will reach the Kepler front in 3 days." The room became very quiet. Nobody had seen a human ship enter their space. Their sensors were the best in the galaxy, but they had detected nothing. How could a ship that big move without being seen? Admiral Ross from the Tyrillian Navy leaned forward in his chair. His large eyes showed hope for the first time in months. "Captain Davis, can you tell us what your ship can do?" Davis thought about his answer carefully. "It is our newest design. We call it a battleship, but that word might mean something different to you. It has 800 crew members and is about 2 kilometers long." More quiet talking started around the room. 2 kilometers was a good size for a warship. It was bigger than most cruisers, but still much smaller than the huge Malaxi bioships that could be 5 kilometers long. "What weapons does it have?" Admiral Ross asked. "Kinetic weapons, mostly. Some energy beams. Normal shields and armor." Davis paused for a moment, "and some new things we designed ourselves." Reed's translator had trouble with some of the human words. Kinetic weapons meant shooting solid objects at targets. Most species had stopped using such simple weapons thousands of years ago. They used energy beams and plasma bolts now. But something in Davis's voice made Reed feel worried. A delegate from the Corvani military stood up. His forearms moved as he talked. "Captain, the Malaxi bioships can adapt to any weapon. They learn from each attack and become stronger. How will simple kinetic weapons help?" "Our weapons are different," Davis said simply. "They work in ways that bioships cannot adapt to." The crystalline entity representative spoke through mathematics that the room's computers turned into words. "The probability of success for one ship against a Malaxi fleet is 0.0001%. This is not logical." Davis looked at the crystal being. "Mathematics based on known technology. We use unknown technology." This made the room buzz with worried voices. What did that mean? Every species in the galaxy shared basic scientific knowledge. The laws of physics were the same everywhere. How could humans have discovered something completely new? Ambassador Tyler from the Drakmor Federation raised her scaled hand. "Captain Davis, if your ship is so powerful, why have humans stayed hidden until now?" "We were not hiding," Davis replied. "We were watching, learning about the galaxy before we decided how to join it. The attack on innocent Trillians forced us to act sooner than planned. This news shocked everyone. Humans had been watching the galaxy for decades without anyone knowing. They'd studied alien languages, cultures, and military tactics, while staying completely invisible. What else do you know about us?" Reed asked, feeling nervous. "Everything we need to know," Davis said. His calm voice made the answer sound more threatening than any shout could have. The session continued for another hour, but everyone's mind was on the same question. What were humans really capable of? A species that could hide for decades while studying advanced civilizations was not primitive. A species that claimed to have weapons beyond known science was not weak. As the meeting ended, private conversations started immediately. Species that had ignored the Trillian War were suddenly interested. The proud Alteran Empire wanted to know about human technology. The mysterious Corvani asked for meetings with human leaders, but the biggest change was in how the military powers acted. The Hegemony of Worlds, the largest military alliance in the galaxy, called an emergency meeting. For the first time in centuries, they were worried about a new threat. In the depths of space, the UCS Defiance continued moving toward the war zone. Its crew of 800 did their daily work with calm skill, but they had no idea that their arrival would change how the entire galaxy thought about war. The ship's captain stood on the bridge, looking at star charts. The Galaxy fleet was exactly where intelligence said it would be. 47 bioships surrounding a helpless planet preparing to kill 5 billion people. "Time to target?" Lane asked. 18 hours, sir," replied his navigator. "Weapon systems status?" "All systems ready, Admiral." "Kinetic launchers loaded and calibrated." "Energy banks at full power." Lane nodded. He had read the reports about the Galactic Council meeting. The aliens thought one human ship was either very brave or very stupid. Soon they would learn that humans were neither. They were something much more dangerous. They were prepared. The Defiance continued its silent approach, carrying with it the power to reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible in war. Human Battleship enters the war, and fear spreads across the stars. Part 2. First contact with Terra, the Galaxy Horde had perfected the art of war over 3,000 years. Their bioships were not built like normal ships. Instead, they were grown like giant living creatures. Each ship was alive, with a heart that pumped green blood and organs that could heal any damage. War Commander Blake led the attack fleet from his flagship, a massive 6-kilometer beast that glowed with blue lights along its living hull. The ship's skin moved like breathing, and weapon ports opened and closed like hungry mouths. The attack on the Trillian planet called New Hope was going exactly as planned. 47 bioships had surrounded the star system. They had already destroyed the space stations and were getting ready to kill everyone on the planet below. 5 billion Trillian families hid in underground shelters waiting to die. "Commander," his sensor officer hissed through sharp teeth, "the Trillians are trying to surrender." Blake's 6 red eyes glowed with pleasure. "Ignore them. We need their planet's metals, not the people living on it. Start bombing the planet in 10 minutes. Every alarm on the bridge suddenly started screaming. "Massive space distortion detected," the sensor officer cried out. "Something big is coming out of hyperspace." The space above New Hope began to ripple like water when you throw a stone into it. Then the UCS Defiance appeared. 2 kilometers of gray metal with weapon systems that looked like nothing the Galaxy had ever seen. Unlike their living ships, this vessel looked like it was built for only one job: fighting. "Unknown ship," Blake sent a message on all radio channels. "You are interfering with Malak's military business. Leave now, or we will destroy you." The answer came back in clear galactic language. "This is Admiral Cross of the human ship Defiance. I order you to stop attacking civilians and leave this system immediately." Blake's teeth clicked in amusement.
Now one ship against his entire fleet.
The humans were even more foolish than he had thought. "Human ship, you have 10 seconds to turn." Around before we show you why the Galaxy Horde is feared across the galaxy? Negative. You have 60 seconds to start leaving. I will not warn you again. The nerve of these humans was incredible. Blake gestured to his weapons officer. Target that ship. Show them how useless it is to challenge us. 12 bioships moved toward the Defiance. Their living hulls bristled with plasma cannons and biotorpedoes that could track targets across space. They fired together, sending enough energy to destroy a small moon. The human ship's shields flared bright white, absorbing all the energy. When the light faded, the Defiance sat there completely undamaged. Impossible, Blake whispered. His bioships had adaptive weapons that could break through any known shield system. How had the humans absorbed such an attack without any damage? The Defiance's response was swift and terrifying. Beams of light shot out from the human ship. But these were not the curved energy bolts or plasma beams that the Galaxy knew. These were perfectly straight lines of destruction that moved almost as fast as light itself. They hit 3 bioships at the same time. What happened next broke everything the Galaxy understood about space combat. The bioships did not just take damage. They were torn apart at the smallest level. 2-kilometer sections of living hulls simply stopped existing, leaving perfect round holes in the ships. The bioships' healing abilities, their greatest strength, were useless against wounds that had removed matter completely. "What kind of weapons are those?" Blake's tactical officer stammered. Before anyone could answer, more light beams reached out from the human ship. Each shot was perfectly aimed, each hit devastating beyond belief. In less than 30 seconds, 8 bioships had been turned into floating wreckage. The Defiance had not moved. It hung in space like a gray monument to destruction, its weapons firing with mechanical precision. "All ships, attack the human vessel," Blake roared, overwhelmed their defenses. But as 39 bioships began their attack run, something incredible happened. The human ship disappeared, not destroyed, simply gone. One moment it was in one spot, the next it had vanished completely from all sensors. The Galaxy weapons fired at empty space. Then the Defiance reappeared directly above Blake's flagship, so close that he could see individual weapon ports through his bridge windows. The massive human ship hung there like a predator studying its prey. "Impossible," Blake breathed. "Ships cannot move that fast. Physics does not allow such movement." The Defiance fired a single shot, not at the flagship's weapons or engines, but at a carefully chosen point on the hull. The light beam punched through 6 kilometers of bioship and came out the other side, leaving a perfectly round tunnel through the creature's heart. Every system on the flagship died instantly. Life support, weapons, movement, all the bioship's organs had been cut by that single, possibly precise shot, as emergency power flickered on. Blake heard Admiral Cross's voice on the radio. "You have 30 seconds to order your fleet to retreat, or I will show you what happens when humans stop being gentle." Looking at the floating pieces of 8 bioships and his own crippled flagship, Blake made the only smart choice he could. For the first time in Galaxy history, a Horde fleet ran away from a single enemy ship. As the bioships limped away into hyperspace, the Defiance took position above New Hope, silently standing guard over 5 billion grateful people. Word of the battle spread, cross-space communication networks within hours. Military commanders on dozens of worlds received the same impossible reports and tried to understand what they meant. On the Corvani homeworld, General Kane stared at the battle recordings with growing fear. His 4 hands shook as he replayed, the footage showing bioships simply ceasing to exist. "How do we fight an enemy whose weapons ignore the laws of physics?" he asked his staff. Nobody had an answer. On the Altaran energy world, the Council of Light analyzed the human weapon signatures. Their greatest scientists, beings made of pure energy who had mastered matter manipulation for millennia, could not understand how the human weapons worked. "They appeared to delete matter from reality," reported Chief Scientist Nova. "This should be impossible according to all known science." In the crystalline entity homeworld, mathematical beings spent computational cycles trying to understand the battle data. Their preliminary calculations suggested that human technology operated on principles that their civilization would need 50,000 years to discover the Drakmor Federation. immediately began redesigning their military doctrine, if kinetic. Weapons could somehow bypass all known defenses. Then their energy-based fleet was obsolete overnight. But it was the reaction of the galaxy's criminal elements that truly showed how much had changed. Pirate fleets that had terrorized merchant ships for centuries suddenly found themselves afraid to leave their hidden bases. If humans could make Malaxi bioships disappear, what would they do to simple pirates? In the depths of space, War Commander Blake's damaged flagship struggled toward the nearest Malaxi base. His crew worked frantically to heal the bioship's wounds, but the damage the human weapon had caused defied understanding. The tunnel through the ship remained perfectly round, its edges showing no signs of the cellular activity that should have begun healing immediately. Blake himself stood in his ruined command center, replaying the battle over and over. He had commanded fleets for 2 centuries, had conquered dozens of worlds, had never retreated from any fight. Now, watching those 4 minutes again and again, he felt something he had never experienced. Genuine terror. The human had spoken of. Being gentle. What did it mean when humans stopped showing mercy? Human battleship enters the war. Fear spreads across the stars. Part 3. The ripple effect news of the Malaxi defeat spread through the galaxy faster than the escaping bioships themselves, like in command centers and government buildings across. Hundreds of worlds, the same impossible reports, were being studied over and over again on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Reed stared at the tactical data with growing panic. The sensor recordings from Tyrillian monitoring stations showed something that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare. Check the data one more time, he ordered his assistant, a young Vorthon named Vale. Sir, we have confirmed the information 23 times. 1 human ship fought 47 Malaxi bioships. 8 were completely destroyed, the flagship was disabled, and the entire fleet ran away. Total fight time, 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Reed's hand shook as he looked at the technical reports. The weapon signatures made no sense at all. The Defiance's kinetic weapons worked in ways that broke known physics. Matter did not simply disappear when hit by bullets, yet that was exactly what the sensor logs showed. Get me a direct line to the Vorthan Defense Ministry, Reed commanded. Highest priority. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Admiral Ross of the Tyrillian Navy found himself answering calls from species that had never cared about the war before. The proud Alteran Empire, masters of energy control, wanted detailed information about human weapon technology. The mysterious crystalline entities, who only talked through math equations, were suddenly asking for diplomatic meetings with humanity. But it was the reaction of the galaxies. Military powers that truly showed how much things had changed. The hegemony of worlds, the galaxy's largest military alliance, held an emergency meeting within hours of getting the first reports. General Park of the Corvani Strategic Command stood before the gathered military leaders. His forearms pointed at holographic displays showing the battle from different angles. Colleagues, he began, his click speech translated into galactic standard, we are seeing a complete change in warfare. Human military technology appears to work on principles we do not understand. Moral Stone of the Drakmor fleet leaned forward, her scaled face showing worry. How is instant movement possible? Our best ships need several seconds to make short jumps through space. This human ship seemed to teleport with no energy buildup at all. That is not the most frightening part, Park replied. He gestured, and the display zoomed in on the aftermath of the human weapon strikes. These wounds show complete molecular breakdown. Bioships were not damaged, sections of them simply stopped existing. Our top scientists are calling it impossible. The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. Every species present had built their military plans based on known limits of physics and technology. Humans had somehow gone beyond those limits. ... double quotes, what is their fleet strength? Asked Commander West of the Rigelian Defense Corps. Park's expression grew dark. That is what scares me most. According to intelligence reports, this was a single ship on what the humans called a routine patrol mission. Now we have no information about their fleet size, their shipbuilding abilities, or their total military power. The silence lasted longer this time. A single human ship had easily defeated a force that would have challenged most small civilizations. What could an entire human fleet do? On the edges of the meeting, darker conversations were starting. Species, with aggressive expansion plans, were quietly changing their strategies. The Vorthon Empire had been planning to claim several undefended systems near human space. Those plans were now cancelled indefinitely. Meanwhile, in Deep Space War Commander, Blake's damaged flagship crawled toward the nearest Malaxi base. His crew worked desperately to heal the bioship's cut organs. But the wound the human weapon had made was beyond their understanding. The tunnel through the ship stayed perfectly round, its edges showing no signs of damage or healing activity. It was as if that part of the ship had never existed at all. Blake himself stood in his ruined command center, staring at the battle recordings. He had commanded fleets for 2 centuries, had conquered dozens of worlds, had never retreated from any battle. Now, replaying those 4 minutes over and over, he felt something he had never experienced before: real fear. The human had talked about showing restraint. What did lack of restraint look like for a species that could casually break the laws of physics? His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent message from the Malaxi High Command. The voice of Supreme Warlord Kane crackled through the damaged speakers. Blake, explain this embarrassment. A single ship defeated an entire assault fleet. Supreme Warlord, Blake began carefully. The humans have technology beyond our understanding. Their weapons, their movement abilities, they work outside known physical laws. Impossible. No species achieved such advancement in just decades. Blake sent the sensor logs. Long minutes passed in silence as Kane reviewed the data. By the void, Kane finally whispered, What have we awakened? The question would haunt military commanders across the galaxy in the days to come. Humanity had announced their presence on the galactic stage not with diplomacy or trade, but with a demonstration of power that redefined what was possible. On the Alteron homeworld, the Council of Pure Energy held an emergency session. These beings, made of living light, had mastered energy manipulation for 10,000 years. They considered themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy. The human weapons do not use energy in any form we recognize, reported science leader Bright. They appear to manipulate matter at the quantum level without any energy signature. This challenges our entire understanding of reality. Could they be using dimensional technology? Asked War Leader Flash. Unknown. Their methods are so advanced that our instruments cannot even detect how they work. Similar discussions were happening among the crystalline entities. These mathematical beings had spent millions of years calculating the fundamental equations of the universe. Now, they faced technology that seemed to ignore those equations entirely. Entity Prime calculated frantically, trying to derive human weapon principles from observed effects. The preliminary results suggested that their civilization would need 47,000 years to understand the basic concepts. But perhaps the most significant change was happening among the galaxy's criminal organizations. Pirate fleets that had terrorized merchant ships for centuries suddenly found themselves afraid to leave their hidden bases. Captain Hook of the notorious Blood Raiders received reports from his scouts with growing alarm. Boss, the humans just appeared at the Rigel shipping lanes. 3 of the Crimson Fleet's dreadnoughts tried to raid a convoy. The human ship disabled all 3 in less than a minute. No casualties, but all their weapons and engines were surgically removed. Hook stared. At the tactical data, the precision was incredible. The human ship had somehow targeted specific systems within enemy vessels without damaging anything else. It suggested a level of technological control that made conventional piracy impossible. Send word to all cells, Hook ordered. Order to avoid any system under human protection. These beings fight like gods. On the Corvani military world, 4 armed strategists worked around the clock to understand the implications. Their civilization had built the galaxy's most advanced war colleges, had studied military tactics for millennia. All our doctrine is obsolete, admitted General Park to his staff. Speed, armor, numbers, tactics, none of it matters against weapons that can delete matter from existence. What do we do? Asked his aide. We pray the humans are peaceful. Because if they are not, no force in the galaxy can stop them. The ripple effects continued spreading. Trade routes changed as merchants sought human-protected corridors. Disputes that had lasted centuries were suddenly being settled through negotiation rather than warfare. The mere possibility of human intervention had ended conflicts that diplomacy could not resolve. In the depths of the Malexi Empire, Supreme Warlord Kane reviewed intelligence reports from across their territory. Dozens of worlds that had been scheduled for conquest were now requesting human protection. The fear was spreading faster than their fleets could move. "How many ships do the humans have?" Kane asked his intelligence chief. "Unknown, Supreme Warlord. Our best estimates suggest at least dozens, possibly hundreds." Kane felt cold terror creep through his body. If each human ship was as powerful as the Defiance, then the Malaxi horde faced extinction. 3,000. Years of conquest and expansion could end in a single battle, but the most profound change was psychological. For millennia, the galaxy had operated on the principle that might made right. The strongest fleets conquered the weakest systems. Technology advanced slowly, and military balance remained relatively stable. Humanity had shattered that stability in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. They had demonstrated that overwhelming technological superiority could render traditional military thinking obsolete. Galaxy's power structure, built over thousands of years, was crumbling. And somewhere in human space, the UCS Defiance was returning to port for routine maintenance, its crew unaware that their simple patrol mission had just changed the course of galactic history. Human Battleship enters the war. Fear spreads across the stars. Part 4. The Gathering Storm. Emergency session of the Galactic Council began 3 days after the Battle of New Hope, for the first time in over a century. Had sent their most important representatives. The great chamber buzzed with nervous energy as delegates walked in, their usual calm behavior strained by the shocking circumstances. Ambassador Reed took his position at the Vorthan delegation's table, noticing the subtle changes in the chamber's atmosphere. Species that rarely talked to each other were gathered in quiet conversations. Traditional enemies sat next to each other, united by a common fear that was bigger than their old disagreements. The session was called to order by Chancellor Gray. Of the hegemony of worlds, her crystal form, splitting the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns. "Honored delegates," she began, her musical voice coming through built-in translators. "We face a situation we have never seen before, previously. Unknown military power has shown capabilities that challenge our understanding of physics itself." She gestured, and holographic displays throughout the chamber showed the tactical data from New Hope. Even after 3 days of study, the footage remained shocking. The casual efficiency with which the human ship had defeated the Malaxi fleet broke all military rules. "The question before us is simple," Gray continued. "How do we respond to the emergence of humanity as a military power?" Admiral Ross of the Tyrillian Navy was the first to speak. "With thanks. The humans saved 5 billion of my people. They helped when the rest of the galaxy was happy to watch us die." "Thanks may be too early," interrupted General White of the Corvani's Strategic Command. "We know nothing about human plans. Species that develop such weapons in secret raises serious questions about their final goals." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The delegate from the Alteran Empire stood, her energy form flickering with worry. "The humans' weapons technology works on principles we cannot understand. They appear to control matter at the smallest level with easy skill. Such capabilities represent a threat to every species in this chamber. Perhaps," said Ambassador Green of the Drakmor fleet, "we should invite human representatives to address these concerns directly." The suggestion created immediate discussion. Protocol said that new species went through decades of cultural and technological assessment before being granted full council status. Humanity had been contacted less than a year ago. "I've taken the freedom of extending such an invitation," Chancellor Gray announced. "Admiral Cross of the human vessel Defiance is traveling to Nexus Prime." The chamber erupted in surprise. Voices. Reed felt a chill run through his body. The human responsible for the destruction at New Hope was coming here to the heart of galactic civilization. "When will he arrive?" General White demanded. "He is already here," Gray replied. The chamber's main doors opened, and Admiral Cross entered with a small group of human personnel. He was younger than most delegates had expected, perhaps 50 standard years, with graying hair and calm brown eyes that seemed to notice everything at once. His simple blue uniform had few decorations, but he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone used to command. Cross approached the central platform without ceremony. "Honored delegates," he began, "I understand there are concerns about recent events. I am here to address them." The directness was startling. Most species would have begun with elaborate greetings and formal recognition of the various delegations' importance. Ambassador Reed stood. "Admiral Cross, your vessel showed military capabilities that appear to break known physics. How do we explain this with your species' recent appearance on the galactic stage?" Cross thought about the question carefully. "Oh, we have been studying the galaxy for longer than you might think. When your species achieved faster than light travel, we were already watching. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, observed your conflicts." A chill settled over the chamber. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been conducting secret surveillance for decades. For what purpose? Demanded General White. "To understand who we would be dealing with when we finally made contact," Cross replied. "We needed to know if we were joining a community of civilized species or something else entirely." Admiral Ross leaned forward. "And what did you conclude?" Cross's expression grew serious. "That the galaxy is divided between those who protect the innocent and those who attack them. Malaxi Horde's attack on New Hope forced us to choose which side we would support." "Your weapons," the Alteran delegate interrupted her energy form. "Pulsing with urgency, they break conservation of matter." "How is this possible?" "They do not break anything," Cross said simply. "They work within natural laws you have not discovered yet. Your science is impressive, but it is not complete." The casual dismissal of the galaxy's greatest scientific achievements sent shockwaves through the chamber. These species had been exploring space for thousands of years, had mastered technologies that seemed miraculous to younger civilizations. "What other capabilities does humanity possess?" Chancellor Gray asked. Cross smiled, and somehow that expression was more unsettling than any threat could have been. "We prefer not to discuss our defensive capabilities in detail. But I can tell you that the Defiance is not our most advanced vessel." The statement hit the chamber like a physical blow. The ship that had effortlessly defeated 47 Malexi bioships was considered outdated by human standards. Admiral Reed said carefully, "What are humanity's intentions regarding galactic affairs?" "We want peace," Cross replied. "We want to trade, to share knowledge, to join the community of spacefaring species. But we will not tolerate aggression against innocent populations." The Malaxi learned this lesson. We hope others will not need to repeat their experience. The threat was hidden but unmistakable. Humanity would use their superior technology to enforce their moral code on the galaxy. The session continued for hours, with each delegate trying to understand the implications of humanity's emergence. The Corvani military wanted to know about human fleet composition. The Alterans requested scientific exchanges. The crystalline entities asked for mathematical proofs of human weapon principles. Cross answered some questions and politely declined others. He was friendly but firm, making it clear that humanity would share some information but keep their most advanced secrets protected. "We believe in gradual integration," Cross explained. "Too much technological advancement too quickly can destabilize civilizations. We have seen this happen before in our own history." The comment raised new questions. How long had humanity been developing such advanced technology? What other secrets were they hiding? As the session neared its end, Chancellor Gray asked the question that everyone was thinking. "Admiral Cross, what happens if the galaxy refuses to accept human oversight?" Cross was quiet for a long moment. "We hope that will not be necessary to discover. The galaxy has existed for millions of years without human intervention. We would prefer to keep it that way. But we will not allow mass genocide to continue. While we have the power to stop it," the message was clear. Humanity offered partnership and cooperation to those who acted peacefully. But for those who chose violence against innocents, Human intervention was not a possibility. It was a promise. After Cross and his delegation left, the chamber erupted in heated discussions. Some delegates wanted to form an alliance against humanity. Others argued for immediate cooperation. Still others suggested trying to steal human technology. But underlying all the debates was a single, terrifying realization. For the first time in recorded galactic history, one species possessed the power to dictate terms to all others. The age of balanced power among multiple civilizations was over. Whether this new age would bring peace or tyranny depended entirely on human intentions. And as the delegates filed out of the chamber, each carried the same disturbing question. What happened when the humans decided to stop being so reasonable? In the depths of space, more human ships were moving toward strategic positions throughout the galaxy. They traveled silently, invisible to all sensors. Taking up positions near major military bases and population centers, the gathering storm was not just political. Humanity was preparing for the possibility that their offer of peaceful cooperation might be rejected. And if that happened, the galaxy would learn what human military technology could really accomplish when the restraints were removed. Human battleship enters the war, and fear spreads across the stars. Part 5. The New Order 6. Months after the Battle of New Hope. The effects of humanity's emergence continued to spread across the galaxy. In the depths of the Malaxi High Commands, Fortress World, Supreme Warlord Kane studied intelligence reports that painted an increasingly disturbing picture. About the Rigel incident, he ordered his intelligence chief, Commander Nash. Nash's sharp teeth clicked nervously. As he accessed the files, 3 weeks ago, the pirate alliance known as the Blood Tide attempted to raid the Regeline colony of New Terra. They brought 12 heavy cruisers and 2 dreadnoughts, enough firepower to overwhelm the colony's defenses. It's a single human vessel, the UCS Vigilant, responded to the distress call. The engagement lasted 47 seconds. All 14 pirate ships were disabled with surgical precision. No casualties on either side. Kane's 6 eyes narrowed. Disabled, not destroyed? The humans are becoming more precise in their responses. Their weapons can apparently be set for non-lethal disabling of enemy vessels. They surgically removed each ship's weapon systems and engines, leaving life support intact. The implications were staggering. Not only could humans destroy any known vessel with ease, they could selectively disable targets with precision that bordered on the impossible. It suggested a level of technological sophistication that made the galaxy's other civilizations seem primitive by comparison.
Now what happened to the pirates?
Were handed over to Regeline authorities for trial. Standard legal procedures. Kane studied the tactical data, noting the casual efficiency of the human response. 47 seconds to neutralize 14 warships. The UCS Vigilant had not even been their primary military vessel. Intelligence suggested it was classified. As a light cruiser, the Alteran Empire has formally requested human assistance with their border dispute, Nash continued. The Drakmor Federation is seeking human arbitration of their trade conflicts. Even the Hegemony of Worlds has inquired about potential military cooperation agreements. The galaxy's greatest powers were actively seeking humanity's favor. The species that had been ignored as primitive newcomers 6 months ago were now the ultimate arbiters of interstellar disputes. A communication alert interrupted Kane's thoughts. The holographic form of Admiral Cross materialized in the command chamber, his calm demeanor as unsettling as ever. Supreme Warlord Kane, Cross said. Formally, I trust you have had time to consider our previous conversation. 3 months ago, Cross had contacted the Malaxi High Command with a simple proposition: cease all military operations against civilian populations, redirect their fleets toward legitimate military targets only, and accept human oversight of their conflicts. The alternative had been left unspoken but clear. Admiral Cross, Kane replied carefully, the Malaxi have been a warrior culture for 3,000 years. You ask us to abandon our fundamental nature? Ask you to evolve? Cross corrected? Your species' martial skills are impressive. The galaxy needs defenders, protectors, peacekeepers. You could become the greatest force for stability the galaxy has ever known. The offer was genuinely appealing. Rather than demanding the Galaxy abandon warfare entirely, the humans were offering them a chance to redirect their military prowess toward noble purposes. Several Horde commanders had already expressed interest in the concept, and if we refuse, crosses. Expression did not change, but something in his eyes grew colder. Then you will discover what happens when humanity stops showing restraint. I believe War Commander Blake briefed you on that particular concept. Kane had indeed reviewed Blake's reports extensively. The veteran commander who had conquered dozens of worlds remained genuinely traumatized by his encounter with human military technology. He spoke of weapons that did not just destroy but edited matter out of existence, of ships that moved like ghosts through space, of humans who treated the galaxy's most feared military force like unruly children. The Horde will need time to adapt to this new role, Kane said finally. Of course, human advisors will be made available to assist with the transition. We understand that cultural change takes time. The conversation ended with formal pleasantries. But Kane understood the reality. The Malaxi Horde, terror of the galaxy for millennia, had become a protectorate of humanity. It was either accept guidance or face annihilation. Similar conversations were occurring throughout the galaxy. The Vorthan Empire had agreed to human mediation of their territorial disputes. The warlike Corvani had restructured their military to focus on defensive operations. Pirates, raiders, and aggressive expansionist powers found themselves facing an impossible choice: reform or be reformed by human intervention. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Reed compiled his final report on humanity's integration into galactic society. The assessment was simultaneously hopeful and terrifying. Human military capabilities remain beyond our understanding, he wrote. However, their commitment to protecting civilian populations appears genuine. Crime rates have dropped by 93% in systems under human protection. Territorial disputes have been resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. The galaxy is experiencing an unprecedented period of peace. He paused, considering his next words carefully. However, this peace exists entirely at humanity's discretion. They have positioned themselves as the ultimate authority on interstellar affairs. Every major decision now requires their approval. We are no longer independent civilizations. We are protectorates of a benevolent human empire. The question that haunted Reed and many others throughout the galaxy was simple. What happened when humanity decided to be less benevolent? In the Outer Rim territories, the effects of human oversight were becoming visible. The Tyrillian Federation, once on the brink of extinction, was now rebuilding with human technological assistance. New Hope had become a symbol of what was possible when humanity chose to protect rather than conquer. Captain Maurice, of the Tyrillian Defense Force, stood on the bridge of his newly commissioned cruiser, the Hope's Dawn. The ship incorporated human defensive technologies, making it virtually invulnerable to conventional weapons. More importantly, it carried a direct communication link to the human fleet. Captain, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a distress call from the Centauri mining station. Raider attack in progress. Morris nodded. The human patrol vessel in Sector 7. Standard protection protocol. Within minutes, the UCS Guardian had responded to the call. The raiders, recognizing the human vessel's distinctive energy signature, immediately ceased their attack and fled to hyperspace. No shots were fired. The mere presence of a human ship was enough to end the conflict. This scene was being repeated across the galaxy. Trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries were now safe. Colonies that had lived in fear of attack could focus on peaceful development. The criminals and aggressors who had terrorized innocent populations found themselves increasingly isolated and powerless. But the most significant change was psychological. The galaxy's younger species, those who had been victims of more powerful neighbors, now looked to humanity as protectors. The older, more aggressive civilizations found themselves constrained by the knowledge that excessive violence would bring human intervention on the crystalline entity homeworld. Entity Prime completed its analysis of the new galactic order. The mathematical calculations were clear. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They'd impose peace not through conquest or diplomacy, but through the simple demonstration that resistance was futile. The equation was elegant in its simplicity. Civilizations that acted peacefully were protected and prospered. Those that chose violence faced overwhelming retaliation. The result was a galaxy-wide shift toward cooperation and negotiation in the depths of human space. Admiral Cross stood in the observation deck of Earth's primary orbital station watching construction crews work on humanity's newest vessels. The ships being built were no longer designed for war, but for peacekeeping and protection. Sleeker, more advanced, optimized for the reality of governing a galaxy rather than conquering it. His aide, Captain Martinez, joined him at the viewport. The Alteran Council is requesting permanent human presence in their sector, Martinez reported. The Corvani want to establish joint training programs. The Hegemony is offering to restructure their entire command structure under human oversight. Nodded absently, and the resistance movements? Minimal. The Vorthon Liberation Front disbanded last month. The Free Malaxi Coalition has less than 1,000 members. Most opposition groups have concluded that human rule is preferable to the chaos of the old system. Both men watched as the new ships took shape in the construction bays. More powerful than the Defiance, designed for the reality of maintaining order across thousands of star systems. Sir Martinez said quietly, "Are we doing the right thing? We have essentially become the galaxy's rulers without anyone voting." For us, Cross considered the question, watching a transport ship carry medical supplies to a former war zone. "We gave them a choice, Captain. They could continue their old ways, endless warfare, civilian casualties, might makes right, or they could accept our guidance toward something better."